What does the band Journey and quarterback prospect Shedeur Sanders have in common? Well, let's talk about it. Browns 3D starts now. Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. Browns 3D on the OBR, brought to you by State Sharpening Mower Sales and Service. Your host, Jeff Lloyd. Appreciate everybody who keeps churning out, whether it's for the written content over at the OBR, of course, the nightly streaming content. Make sure you're subscribed to the OBR on YouTube, and of course, over on Twitch. We appreciate the support. You guys keep coming out. We kept trying harder and harder to give you guys the best damn information we possibly can. Now, there's always this part, of draft talk, draft coverage, where I think we hit just the absurd, silly part of it. I think we're there, kids. Still 5 weeks away, of course. But to the point where we now have people saying, because, and if you haven't heard, the rock music band Journey will be playing the Cleveland Browns draft party at the stadium, which they're holding for season ticket holders. Nice gesture and all, of course, by the Browns, all that stuff, of course. But now we have people, well, you're not bringing out Journey to draft a defensive end. I mean, you're bringing out Journey. It's got to mean Shedeur Sanders. If you need any more inclination that we are going off the rails here with draft coverage, at least some. There's an example. The other one would be taking a quarterback at 2 and then drafting back up into the first round to take another quarterback. I mean, look, it is a long and arduous process. There's no question about it. But sometimes I think, in the rush to get content done, produced, submitted out to the public, we get a little insane, I would say. That all being said, looking at the Browns quarterback search, certainly we talked about this yesterday. Thanks to everybody who came out yesterday and listened. If you haven't, cue that up after this one, of course. You will have the React tonight, Brad Ward, Pete Smith after me, so make sure you stick around for that as well. Now, if you were to ask me, and I have been an arduous, a staunch guy as far as taking Abdul Carter at 2. But the way the veteran quarterback search is going right now for the Cleveland Browns, if you were to ask me right now, today, if I think the odds of Shedeur Sanders and the Cleveland Browns are better today than maybe they were 1 week ago, I'd say yes. Certainly has to do with the Kirk Cousins situation. Certainly has to do with, I do believe Russ Wilson is not viewing the Browns as his first option. Aaron Rodgers keeping all these other teams at bay until he finally decides to get off his butt and make a decision. And again, like Adam Schefter said today, look, it's, there's really no reason these deals have to be done today. I think it's more of, fans wanting to know who their guy is, teams wanting to know who their guy is. But there is no real reason that these deals need to be done today. Now, with that being said, and, Shedeur Sanders' name, won't go away from being linked to the Browns. And again, Cleveland does like Shedeur Sanders more, I should say, than some other teams. That's on record. If ever need any other reasons to go and become an OBR insider, go do it. Pay the small fee, and you'll hear information that you're going to hear a week later from national pundits. So just in case anybody knows that. So, but there is also, for me, there is this belief. The continued leaking, or trying to link Shedeur Sanders and the Cleveland Browns. Now, how much talk was there about the New York Giants and trying to trade up to number 1? Ton of it, until Cam Ward interviewed well, until his teammates spoke about what type of leader and what type of gentleman and individual Cam Ward is. That Tennessee basically kind of closed shop there and said, you know what? We're going to build this thing, and we're going to build it for Cam Ward, and we're going to see what we got. Well, when you have an offensive mind coach now in his second year, you probably should go get him as guy. But so if all the talk was the New York Giants, and look, there were two teams, and this goes back to early fall, middle of fall. There were two teams that were heavily linked to Shedeur Sanders. One was the Las Vegas Raiders, and they still may have interest, but I think, they probably comfortable in their guy, in Geno Smith, certainly with Pete Carroll. And the other team that was heavily linked to the New York Giants, to Shedeur Sanders, was the New York Giants. Now, the more the Browns, Shedeur Sanders, that stuff gets talked about, can the Browns possibly get the New York Giants to give something up? All right, we'll come to 2, get Shedeur. And for the Browns, I think that would be a coup, because I think the Browns, and look, it's not going to be major to go from 3 to 2, and it certainly wouldn't be major to go from 3 to 2, which allows the Giants to get their guy, and the Browns could possibly conceivably still get their guy in Abdul Carter at 3, and then pick up either another pick here early for 2025, or pick up another pick early in 2026 that can help them if they're going to end up or need to end up going the route of quarterback in round 1 in 2026. So I think there could be, the Browns may be playing a little bit of a game here. And look, again, they could very well end up drafting Shedeur Sanders. It's certainly not going to be because Journey's playing the draft party. It's certainly not going to be, in my opinion, that they just got backed into the corner and got so nervous about the quarterback position that that's the route they took. Again, for the 1500th time, he's either your guy or he's not. And now, and this has Browns fans divided. And look, for anybody who's arguing about it and stuff, like whatever, it should be fun football conversation. That's what this should be about, not some of the stuff I'm seeing on social media. So let's not go that route. But for the Browns, he has to be almost flawless. If you're taking a quarterback at number 2 overall, your belief is he's going to be a guy that can lead you to division titles. He is a guy that's going to lead you to playoff wins. He's a guy that conceivably should lead you to an AFC championship and a Super Bowl. I don't want to hear if he can get that better, or that, not when you're taking a quarterback at 2. Not when you are taking a quarterback at 2. You take Abdul Carter at number 2, and he averages, over his first 5 seasons with the Browns, he averages 10 sacks a game, or maybe a little bit more, or right in that range. Over 5 years, 10 sacks. Perfectly warranted return on investment. You take the quarterback at number 2 overall, the expectations go through the roof, and rightfully so. He needs to be a consistent 4,000-yard passer. He needs to have this team be a consistent winner. Of course, other things would need to be in place: offensive line, skill players, defense, yada, yada, of course. But the return of the investment for a quarterback at 2 needs to be sky high. Whereas the return of the investment of, say, if it's an edge rusher at number 2, the expectations are a tad bit lower. So, again, the Browns could take Shedeur Sanders, and we still have 5 weeks to watch how the rest of this veteran quarterback market plays out. But the Browns are not going to take Shedeur Sanders just because they have to take a quarterback. That is absolute nonsense. They could easily trade, or the other scenario, they could trade back to 3. Okay? Let the Giants come to 2, take Shedeur Sanders. Browns could trade back to 3. Take whatever pick you get from the New York Giants, jump back in to round 1, and possibly go chase a Jackson Dart. I know that's not any more appealing for some of you, but then it makes the transition a little bit easier, a little bit less pressure for your quarterback. Look, I'm loving these talks. I am. This is, for me, I love draft season. You guys know that. It's the best time of the year. But I think some of it is just absolutely going absolutely bananas right now. And I guess that also comes with, having a pick as high as number 2 in an NFL draft. We're going to continue on here. Your latest Browns 3D. Appreciate everybody for being along for the ride. Want to shout out our great sponsors. They've been with us here for a while. State Sharpening Mower Sales and Service in Broadview Heights. If you are local to the Cleveland area, they are your one-stop shop for all things lawn equipment. Is there anything worse than missing the Browns game because you've got lawn chores to do? State has the best lineup of new Cub Cadet mowers to cut your mowing time down, as well as genuine parts and expert factory-trained technicians to get your existing mower back into peak shape. Whether you're in the market for the state-of-the-art Ultima Zero Turn or the top dog Enduro Series tractor, let State Sharpening and Cub Cadet help you keep your weekend yours. Veteran-owned, the Kane family are lifetime Clevelanders. They are lifetime Browns fans and proud supporters of us here at the OBR. Again, if you are local to Cleveland, State Sharpening Mower Sales and Service in Broadview Heights is your hometown team for all your lawn equipment needs. All their info is at statesharp.com. That is STATESHARP.com. Browns 3D continues. Your host, Jeff Lloyd. As always, we appreciate everybody being along for the ride with us. Continue, obviously, to consume the written content. The guys are putting out a great amount of great work right now. And, of course, all the nightly streaming you can catch here through the OBR on YouTube and, of course, the OBR over on Twitch. I mean, the talk of what's going to happen at 2, this is going to be the paramount for the next 5 weeks. It just truly is. And, it's in a very, very important position. And certainly it's a very, very important pick as to, the future of this franchise, certainly as far as the future of Andrew Berry and, of course, head coach Kevin Stefanski. Now, the Browns with 5 selections in the first 104 picks. Now, it's pretty established, in my opinion, the positional groups that should kind of be addressed with these selections. Now, quarterback is certainly no doubt. You know what I'm saying? The Browns are going to take a young quarterback here. Is it 2? Is it 33 or moving on up, which becomes maybe a Jackson Dart, type of target? Again, if he's not your guy, he's not your guy. I apologize. But, there are a lot of people that's going to tell you Shedeur Sanders and Jackson Dart are closer to each other than Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders are. And I kind of agree with that. Also within these picks, you have to look at the running back position. And I don't think re-signing Nick Chubb changes any of that. This is a great running back class. And Mel Kiper, Daniel Jeremiah both put out new mock drafts today. Also, Ben Albright talked a little bit today. All 3 of them had Abdul Carter basically being the selection for the Cleveland Browns at number 2. Again, 5 weeks out, nothing is necessarily set in stone, of course. But both seem to have, as a consensus, Ashton Genty and Omarion Hampton in round 1. Yes, the wide receiver class is a little bit lighter than normal. There's no question about that. And it's certainly lighter at the top of the wide receiver position than in years past. So the value of wide receivers has been sky high in recent drafts. And most of them have returned the investment really, really well. But without them, and this isn't, Genty and Hampton getting pushed for no reason. These guys are legit first-round backs. So it really kind of puts that 33 pick into focus for the Cleveland Browns as far as getting a running back. Like, do you want, top? I've said a million times, I want 2 running backs from this class. And, you know, if you want to be the guy that takes 2 swings on day 3, God bless you. I don't. I want brand name. I literally want brand name. I think the top of this running back class is so stinking good. I kind of want to be in on that. So I think 33 becomes a legit spot for the running back. Wide receiver, you could mention here, I would say as well. You know, Ubaka, obviously from Ohio State, seems to be falling out of round ones of a lot of mocks. That was the case. He certainly would be a contender here. Of course, you have to see how the Browns handle the wide receiver market between now and the draft. Again, I've told you for months now, I've been trying to find that wide receiver target for the Cleveland Browns, and I just don't see it coming to fruition for them. I just don't think they're going to find that sweet deal, that good player at a really low price. I just don't see the Browns finding that opportunity to have that type of successful move here this year. So, I mean, unless it's, 4 wide receivers are slated somewhere in that, top 32 or so, all 4 are off the board. Wide receiver for me may fall down to 67. It may fall down to 94. Hell, it may even fall down to 104. So where does DN come in? I still think the Browns could get a significant, pretty damn good prospect as a pass rusher if it's not Abdul Carter. So if you're not going DN at 2, I think you still have a shot at a decent pass rusher at 67. Josiah Stewart is a name out of Michigan I absolutely love. A bit undersized, but, athletic. And, on tape, you would not know he is undersized. This guy straight moves people. Great bull rush for a guy who is literally considered undersized. So that's something you could possibly handle at 67. 94 would then leave you for your wide receiver or your tight end. Again, I'm surprised the Browns have done nothing at tight end to this point. Haven't even sniffed around. There hasn't even been a mention of the Cleveland Browns and a veteran tight end to this point. Certainly, for me, seems to be a head scratcher because I really think that is a position that seriously needs, certainly, to be addressed for this team and upgraded. And it isn't so much a statement necessarily on David Njoku. It's more of a statement of when David Njoku misses time. You see how much this offense struggles because David Njoku is such a mismatched nightmare that it opens things up for a lot of other people on this offense. So being able to replicate David Njoku if he's out, or putting even more of a focus into the tight end room, which is going to make things even more difficult for defense coordinators and obviously defensive players to make their calls, is something I'm just a little confused as to why Cleveland is not really addressing that as much. And certainly I think they should be. So for, these top 104 picks, the 5 of the top 104, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, defensive end, certainly in my mind, feel like, the ideal selections that should be made there. I know a lot of people will probably bring up offensive tackle, and I don't necessarily disagree with you. It's just that I think at 2 and at 33, that's not where you're going to address it. And in a offensive tackle class that's really having a lot of questions to it, it just might not be, the year where you can get that guy. Take a project on day 3. I'm certainly okay with that. I think the Browns truly would like to see DeJuan Jones hopefully play a full season at left tackle, and then make their decision as to whether or not, he can be their guy and he can handle that, which would save him money again. Their left tackle would, be on year 3 and year 4 of his rookie contract, allowing the Browns a chance to lighten up on the finances, which they don't have to do. And you need to stop listening to people who are speaking in an uneducated manner when it comes to the Cleveland Browns finances. The reason the Browns have not created any more cap space yet is because they do not need to. If there was something out there and it totally clicked in, locked in with what the Cleveland Browns want, the money would become ready, available in the snap of a fingers. So everyone's just got to, kind of relax and let that process play out. If there's a way the Browns can save money, of course they're going to do it. But if there is things that can be had that they think will be tremendous difference makers in regards to the 2025 season, the money will all of a sudden appear just like that. So don't listen to people when they're talking about the Cleveland Browns finances, because they're just not there. Obviously, we're running through the pro day circuit. The Big 12, it's kind of all going together, and that's being done this week down in Frisco, Texas. That's where they had all the Shrine Bowl activities. So certainly, hopefully, finally, we'll maybe actually get to see Shedeur Sanders do something in this draft cycle. Those will all be televised on NFL Network, so anybody want to check that out. You had Syracuse Pro Day yesterday. My boy, Kyle McCord, lighting it up. Good players certainly there. Fahel Diggs, LaQuint Allen Jr. certainly we talked about. Rondé Gaston Jr. So some good players. Dean Marlowe coming out of Syracuse. Oregon was today. Wide receiver Tez Johnson, tiny, 154 pounds. Dude's light. He really is. But he did announce that he is going to have a top 30 visit with the Cleveland Browns. Normally, this is a guy I probably wouldn't shed much light on in a wide receiver class. But you're trying to find guys here in this 2025 wide receiver class, and there's just not a lot. So normally a 154-pound wide receiver is not something I would be, running to the podium to acquire for a team. But, you kind of maybe got to loosen up, what is normally your ultra want or ultra need at the position, because it's just unfortunately not offering it to you. So Tez Johnson will come in on a top 30 visit. I think on film he's faster than he ran at the combine. He was a good player. He certainly had a relationship with Bo Nix and the Nix family. So he's certainly got that in him, that NFL blood. I mean, I think he's going to be a pretty good pro. I also feel he's going to be overdrafted, as I feel a lot of the wide receivers in this class will be. You need people to catch the ball. You need people to score touchdowns, and you need wide receivers in this league. So they're going to get taken higher than they should. Basically, the nature of the beast, unfortunately. Now, with the wide receiver room, I think for Jerry Jeudy, the expectation certainly would be, at least, for him to duplicate what he gave this team in 2024. Certainly, if you were expecting and you wanted to say, I think he's capable of a little bit more, I think with consistent quarterback play, and I'm not even saying so much consistent good quarterback play. I'm saying consistent quarterback play as to Jerry Jeudy looking over and it's the same quarterback for most of the season. Not one, not two, not three, not four. I think if he just has a more consistent quarterback as far as just physically being out there week in and week out, certainly could do numbers for Jerry Jeudy. Confidence back up, went out and, basically did everything that he thought he was capable of within this league. And certainly, again, not every move is great. And I think as much as you people say I give Andrew Berry more benefit of the doubt, I will probably say that you guys drag every move Andrew Berry makes. But certainly one of the better moves, certainly, of the Berry Stefanski era was the acquisition of Jerry Jeudy. If you wanted to talk about a player probably on the hot seat, and I don't want that to be taken the incorrect way, but, this would be like the guy the Browns need to step up. And you really had a nice little run going last year for Cedric Tillman. Certainly the game-winning touchdown against the Baltimore Ravens. was really starting to put it together. I guess it was what, 3 touchdowns in 2 games. One 100-yard game. The other game, he was right around 100. And you really thought that, oh my God, here we are in year 2. We're starting to get maybe a wide receiver that the Browns drafted, other than Donovan Peoples-Jones, to develop. And, I think, we were hoping to see more. We all know what happened Thursday Night Football, the concussion, and then unfortunately, that was that. We never saw Cedric Tillman again for the entire rest of the season. Rough for him. But this is certainly the position where somebody's, got to take that step. And for me, I believe Cedric Tillman would be just as good as anybody. And basically, based on what we saw from him last, you would certainly think that for Cedric Tillman, the opportunity to make this jump is certainly there. David Bell will be a final year of his rookie deal. Thought maybe there would be a bigger role for David Bell last year. Got hurt real early. I guess it was the Jacksonville game that ended his season, unfortunately. We never really got much of a look at Jamari Thrash last year, except for the touchdown that I still say he caught late in the season. So certainly an opportunity for Jamari Thrash. And my guess is, for spring and summer, that's going to be one of the bigger names to monitor as well, not just in the wide receiver room, on the Browns roster overall, as, Jamari Thrash goes into year 2. Mike Woods is a great story. And I think the reason a guy like Mike Woods is just not going away is because the Browns really haven't been able to just put enough guys in that room to make a guy who was once, a day 3 selection, never probably thought to be a real, have a real opportunity to become part of the, regular rotation at wide receiver. Well, the other guys just really haven't gotten it done. So here we are just later on where, Michael Woods just keeps coming in every day, working every day. And, the opportunities kind of present himself for him because, staying ready, as opposed to having to get ready. And when Woods gets his name called, he's going out there. So, I'm not, saying Woods' time here is done either. He, just as many other people, and guys that will be in camp for the Browns this year. I mean, you want to talk about the wide receiver room the way it currently is right now. I mean, the only lock, in my opinion, and, with some strong confidence, I can say in the wide receiver room would be Jerry Jeudy. If you want to say, a little more than 50% in a positive light when I talk about Cedric Tillman, I think that would be fair as well. Plus I like the fact, with Tillman, you're bringing in, with him, it's just the size factor. And he gets the ball in his hands, and no, he might not be the uber athlete. No, he might not have the elite speed, but it is just not easy to tackle wide receivers who are north of 220 pounds. It's just not an easy task. So, that wide receiver room, and, we talk about it with the quarterbacks this year, whether it's the free agent market, whether it's the draft, and there's just not much readily available. It's the same kind of thing with the wide receiver market. Look, good wide receivers are probably never going to hit free agency anymore. Because as a franchise, you are stupid if you have a good wide receiver and you do not get into extension talks with that player extremely early. Because he gets close to the market, and not everybody is going to be T. Higgins, who takes less to basically get his boy more. That's not the norm by any means whatsoever. So free agency and wide receivers, it's just probably something that we're not going to see happen here for a while. A lot of that certainly had to do with the market spike last year. And when there were wide receivers on the open market, these teams, if these guys are good and they are good early, these guys will be spending long careers with the teams that have drafted them. So certainly we got to some stuff here. And look, as much as you're hearing big draft media try to connect the Browns and Abdul Carter, and many others still trying to connect the Browns and Shedeur Sanders, I highly wonder if the Browns are loving every minute of that, as they hopefully would get the New York Giants to trade up from 3 to 2 so they can take Shedeur Sanders. The Browns could go back to 3, still take the player I believe they want in Abdul Carter, and have some extra money in picks, money meaning picks, guys, to either trade back up for a quarterback here in 2025 or to possibly have extra draft capital to work with to go find your future franchise quarterback in 2026. And for the last time, the band Journey playing the Cleveland Browns draft party has zero influence on the pick being Shedeur Sanders. I am your host, Jeff Lloyd. We appreciate you all for coming out every day. Make sure you continue to read the written word that the guys are punching out every day over on the site. Come on out for the nightly streaming, Browns 3D. Tonight will be followed by the React and Garage Beers as well. Subscribe on YouTube to the OBR. Of course, subscribe to the OBR over on Twitch as well. Browns 3D on the OBR has been brought to you by State Sharpening Mower Sales and Service. Thank you, everybody, for sticking around and listening to your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. Browns 3D on the OBR, and we will talk to everybody tomorrow.